Hello and welcome back to FaceTime, the world's most intense podcast. Today we have me, Grant Badgley, as host, joined by co-host.
Easy Kokonaing.
As co-host and guest.
Gage Ritter.
As guest.
Yeah. Listen to that voice. Could we have a repeat on that?
Yeah, run it back.
Gage Ritter.
Oh. That was lovely. Now we're going to be talking about ultrasounds today. We really are super fascinated with pregnancy.
Let's break down that word first. So ultra is something that is typically a prefix,
right?
As in something that's synonyms are mega or super. It expands that word, and sound is something with audio, which is what you're experiencing right now.
Yeah.
Gage, your thoughts?
But what we're really going to be talking about is ultrasound pipes, meaning pipes that are so sound they are ultrasound. All right. What do I mean by that? Only a real plumber could explain.
We're going to have to call one up.
Yeah, so Gage, you're not a real plumber, right?
No,
Not yet.
But
Not yet.
we're going to be talking about how Gage is in a skilled trade. And
Sure.
we're going to be talking about the stonk market or stocks, or just a little bit about finance. We want to season you guys with something that I don't think is considered the traditional route. Not tons of classes at high school or college necessarily directly dive into the skilled trade area, nor the
Financial.
the personal finance area.
Yeah.
So we're going to get a little bit of both. Gage is going to help us through that, and then ZZ is going to
Ask the simplified noob questions that some of you may relate with.
Right, yeah. ZZ's going to dumb down the entire podcast.
So we'll have a whole spectrum. We'll have some high school grads who think they know what they're talking about, and another high school grad who has no idea what's going on.
That's right. Yeah. For sure. Gage, I want you to talk to me as to why you didn't go to college.
Well, you want the long answer or the short answer?
Give me a medium.
A medium answer.
Yeah, like a
Well, I think
8-inch sandwich.
The main reason I just didn't go to college is because I'm not a big fan of school. I love learning.
Yeah.
And doing new things. And things like that, but sitting in a desk all day and being graded on what you think and what you are able to remember is not my forte. I don't really like that. And plus, as well, I don't like debt.
Yeah.
And college is expensive, and I don't want to acquire that debt.
For sure.
So it just didn't make sense for me to want to go, which I think a lot of people can relate. A lot of people
Definitely
don't like school. And I think a lot of people go because they're pressured to go. And they kind of realize too late or make a decision too late that school isn't for them.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to make that. I didn't want to be that person.
Yeah.
For sure.
Not to discredit anything Gage just said, but I've actually been with Gage in classes since middle school, so all throughout high school. This guy's a stud muffin when it comes to any advanced level thinking. I think we've been in a couple English classes together, and they're typically the higher level ones. Sometimes some AP classes you can take it without any requirements, but Gage was a very bright guy, so he's a very humble machine at the same time.
Don't listen to him.
No, I think it's cool how you distinguish school and learning, because I think people pair those together too much.
The, Mark Twain quote.
Lay it on me.
I never let education get in the way of my learning.
Ooh,
I think that's very
down with the bureaucracies.
Yeah. And
very true.
I think a lot of people are hinged to school being their only form of learning. And so at some point that'll probably end unless you just continue getting majors for the rest of your life.
Which some people do.
Yeah. But tell us, Gage, how you pursue learning without actually going to college.
Well, I try to read a lot.
Yeah.
Which I was never really a big reader growing up. I really hated it. Kind of really. I hated reading for school, which that could have been a big reason why.
You were just like Diary of a Wimpy Kid? No.
I would love Diary of a Wimpy
Oh,
Kid.
okay. He did not.
But
Have,
as far as like school
Jeff
goes,
Buckley.
you know,
Jeff Buckley, the GOAT.
and reading for English and stuff like that, I never really liked it.
yeah.
I think partly because when you read those books in school, you're kind of expected to read it with a certain expectance of understanding and perception of it.
Yeah. Like everyone's supposed to get the same
Right.
thing out of it.
So, which I think that was a big reason why, and also just being forced to do.
Yeah.
I don't like.
Would you have
forced to do
enjoyed
stuff.
schoolwork more if it wasn't forced?
Probably.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if.
Because sometimes I'll get a book in English.
Right.
And like, it's a good book, but you're making me to read it, so I'm not going to do any of the
Right,
deadlines.
exactly.
Like,
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, but I
because
don't
I
know
mean,
how
like, right now I try to read. Sorry, Grant, what'd you say?
yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, I don't know. It's weird because how is the teacher gonna make sure you read it without the deadlines? But how are you gonna enjoy reading it with the deadlines?
Paradox.
True.
But continue, Gage.
No, yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah, I was never really a big reader, but I ended up coming across something that said, I think the average CEO reads something like 52 books a year,
Jeez.
which
Like
is on
one a week?
average one a week.
Yeah.
But then you get the people like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates who read 6 to 8 hours a day.
Dang.
Yeah, and you know, once you start looking more into it, you really see that as far as your long-term mental health, reading has a huge impact too. It lowers your risk of Alzheimer's, dementia, helps your memory, just the little things like that. So, and then also, you know, you get the benefit of continuously learning.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's not just knowing stuff. It like broadens your perspective on pretty much everything that you read about, and then you get like these, depending on what you read, but you get like personal experiences. It's like you can learn from these people's stories in the same way that you don't have to like live out their mistakes, which I think a lot of people just end up doing. They like make the same mistakes that these people have in the past because they choose not to read, which, I mean, that's that's standard. Most people don't read that much, and I don't read that much either.
Right.
So I think I could take a page quite literally out of your book, tear it perhaps, and then munch on it, because that's some food for thought, Gage. I really
I
appreciate
agree.
it.
See what you did there.
No, that's dope though. It's so cool to me how you aren't even going to college, but you're like
Yeah.
motivated enough
You're not going to college
learn.
either, my guy.
That's right. But I'm not reading.
No, you're just flipping a house right now.
yeah. I could be, I should be reading. Sometimes I catch myself on YouTube instead of like reading, which would probably
Well, I
be
mean,
more
like-
productive. But
Those
YouTube
are
reading.
mediums of
I
education.
think as
YouTube
long as you're
reading.
finding ways to learn,
Yeah.
that's what matters.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
figuring out how to deal with a pipe is just as significant as...
how do you learn to deal with the
So, back to other matters.
for sure.
I don't know. Why didn't you go to school, Grant?
Me?
How the
Oh.
turntable right there.
The turntables. I feel like ZZ should have flipped that one on me, but he didn't.
This is the
fine.
Gage show.
This is the Gage show.
I feel like talking to you at the end of high school,
Yeah.
you were super committed.
About college.
Going to college.
Yeah.
And then it was just
Interesting.
kind of like all of a sudden, Grant's not going to college anymore.
Yeah, well, I tend to be someone who likes to put out an image that I'm like solidified either way. So I wasn't about to be like, I don't know yet. Well, I mean, I was, but I was still like telling people. I never like told people I was considering not going to college until I'd already decided that I wasn't going to, if that makes sense. So I was...
Oh, you want to be like one way or the other.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and since most people had assumed that I was going to college, I just kind of stuck with that. And instead of like pancaking either way, I just kind of like kept telling people that I was choosing between X, Y, and Z college. And I hadn't decided yet, when in reality I'd kind of made it up in my mind. I just didn't want to like lock it in, because then...
Right.
Because I think the big thing was I didn't have a plan after. So I was like,
Yeah.
easy like, but that kind of fell into place when I thought about what I like really enjoyed, and that's woodworking. But I realized like I didn't want to scale that and be like like I don't know, I didn't like the idea of trying to make that like a full-time business right away, at least, because that was just going to take too much. But I got to thinking about like being able to make money in the real estate market and trying to like
What was
renovate
like
a home.
the thing that just made you go, yeah, I'm not going to college? Like,
You're
was there
snapping
like
out.
was there a moment?
I think it wasn't a snap, because I can't snap. I literally like can't. You can, so maybe that's why you had a moment.
I definitely did.
Yes,
was like a
That's
gra-
why I was just wondering if you did or not.
okay.
I did.
Well, I'll talk about my lack of a moment, and then we can talk about your moment.
Sounds awesome.
All right.
So it was like gradual.
Yeah, I think it was more gradual because it was like it was me like praying a lot, and like because I wanted whatever I did do. Because to me, it's like, yes, I want to be successful. Yes, I wanted to like enjoy what I did, and the idea of college was always fun and like enjoyable. But one thing that was clear to me at the beginning of the year is that I didn't like my architecture class, and I thought I was gonna like study architecture in college, but like right away I did not like it. So I dropped out like first week of that class because I like straight up I was like, this is not it for me. And like I never dropped out of a class before that, so I don't know really what went through my head and why it was so clear for me to do that, but it was clear. And then when it came around to the spring, and then like everyone was kind of pressing me, particularly my family, like make a decision, like you kind of have to if you are going to go. And it just like kept getting closer to that date, and then at that point I couldn't even think about college. All I could think about was this like idea like slowly swelling in my mind of doing like flipping houses and like trying to make that work instead. And like I was worried though, because I was like, I need money to do that. But I came across like a verse, and I forget exactly what it was, but it went along the lines of like talking about the provision that God has for you and like the daily bread. And then that is like that's something you can pray for, and that's something that like God promises. And for me, that was like very comforting, because I was thinking like I might not always have like the prosperous money that I want or that I might be able to get in architecture. But if I can be like promised a daily bread, that's enough, regardless of the circumstance. Like I'm gonna just do that instead.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my moment. It wasn't like snap of the fingers, but it was a process, for me.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your moment, Gage, when it became clear to you.
It was definitely, we had just started quarantine.
So this is like
And
late March.
This would have been, late March. And I was talking to my mom. Well, actually, no, this happens before this.
Okay.
So, we just went into quarantine. And my girlfriend's mother, she bought me a book called Why A Students Work for C Students.
Myers.
Oh, Robert.
By Robert Kiyosaki.
Kiyosaki, yeah.
Same guy who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Right.
Which, for those of you who don't know, is considered like the gospel of personal finance, I think.
For sure. It's like the entry.
It's like the entry level.
Yeah. It's the gateway drug to personal finance.
And I started reading that book. And it was an eye opener.
Yeah.
Because you learn that money no degree certifies you to make money.
Yeah.
It certifies you for a skill, which hopefully in return allows you to make money
and get that job.
Right.
Right.
Making money, at least in America, is a completely different skill within itself. Because you have to understand so many different things. You have to understand accounting, marketing, business, management. You have to understand how to get along with people on an intra and extra personal, or not extra as personal isn't a thing, intrapersonal level. It's like a sport within itself, making money. And I was reading that, and basically the entire book, honestly, that book's probably more entry level than Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But he just basically breaks down the American tax system. And the reason the wealthy don't get taxed the same as the middle class and the poor is because, my bad,
You good?
is because the incentives that they create. You know, if it wasn't for the rich people, there wouldn't be a middle class and a poor because they create their jobs, they create their businesses, et cetera, et cetera. And creating a business doesn't require a college degree.
Yeah.
Investing in real estate doesn't require a college degree. Investing in stocks, you know, private equity, bonds, derivatives, etc., requires no college degrees. All it requires is a little bit of personal education and a couple years of sacrifice of saving up some money.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the switch for me. I was really just hooked because I mean, up to that point, I was kind of like you. I never really knew what I wanted to go to college for. Nothing interested me at all. I had no interest. You know, I thought about business because I like business, but I'm interested in creating businesses, if that makes sense. Not
For sure.
Yeah.
helping create someone else's business. So that was the big reason right there. And then the debt and everything as well. And then, yeah. And then after that, though, figuring out what I wanted to do was a slow burn. That was a gradual process.
Yeah. As far as like being able to.
Right. For, you know, deciding that I wanted to get the apprenticeship for plumbing, you know, and deciding I wanted to start doing real estate and stuff like that. Like the decision not to go to college is pretty instant.
Nice.
Figuring out what I wanted to do instead took a bit more time.
Yeah.
You know, I cooked in a restaurant for a couple months.
Yes, sir. Line cook.
Which was glorious.
Noah was good.
Shout out.
And then,
It was what?
Sweaty
It was
club.
glorious.
Glorious.
It was awesome. And then there was this kind of day where I was like, I need to get out of this. So I just quit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that I would kind of force
Why would you
myself.
quit Glory?
Dude, beats me. Beats me. But I just kind of quit so that it light a fire under me to go and find something else. And I ended up just coming across a plumbing apprenticeship.
Yeah. That's
and
dope.
finding out that plumbers,
Which company are you with right now?
Plumbing Services Incorporated.
Nice.
Which is like, it reminds me of Dr. Doofenshmirtz.
Those
Evil Incorporated.
They nature.
So yeah, that's
Oh.
kind of
That's
Plumbing
dope.
Services Incorporated.
Yeah.
PSI.
PSI.
Psi. That's the Greek letter
That's
for
the guy
the
who wrote
first of
Kokonaing
the water
style.
god, Poseidon.
is.
I'm pretty sure.
Water
talking-
potential. Anyone?
He's talking about stuff.
You know what I mean?
I was thinking like PSI as in like pounds per
Psi,
square inch.
The Greek letter.
Pounds per square inch of
Yeah, that
like
works too.
like when you pressure test a pipe,
Exactly.
which is. Have you done that?
That's your slogan.
Yeah.
You
Oh.
dabble.
He dabbles.
I
A
dabble.
little bit.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. Anyways, that's my story.
That's
Being
Gage's
a college
story. That's dope. What
A glimpse
something that's
into the life of Gage Ritter.
that I think is really interesting about like Robert Kiyosaki that he points out. I don't know if it's. I think it's more in Rich Dad Poor Dad, but he kind of focuses on this idea that's like often you don't need more money. That's not
Right,
the
I
issue.
think-
Like, one of the things is like people tend to, as they make more money, they're just gonna spend more money on their housing. They're gonna spend more money on their cars. They're gonna spend more money on like small luxuries, and then they're gonna be like, "What's going on here? I have like the same amount left over."
Right. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. If you're going to take anything away from his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
Yeah.
that's the thing that, which he talks about in A students, C students as well. Or I think he talks about it more in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, is that there's a difference between rich and wealth.
Mm.
You know, you can make $60K a year and be living financially much better than somebody who makes $100K a year.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how you manage your money, how you invest your money. Because I mean the formula to creating wealth is the same that it's been for thousands of years. You know, just save more than you spend,
Right.
keep your expenses low,
And
invest your money in things that'll make you a moderate return on your investment over time. I
absolutely.
mean, the only difference today is that your return on investment has to be a minimum, at least the inflation rate.
yeah.
Otherwise, which is the other big thing, is that a lot of people don't understand is inflation, sadly. A lot of people lose money in their savings accounts, which is odd because it's contradictory to what you're supposed to be doing.
Right. So just to sum that up, if that doesn't make sense to you, like losing money in a bank account, let's say you have $1,000 and you have it in there and you don't do anything with it, so you're saving it, right? But let's say you keep it in there for 3 years and inflation rate is average, what, 3 to 5%?
Over the last decade, it's been 2.5%.
Okay, 2.5.
you just, you
Per
just had to
year.
check him that 0.5%.
Yeah.
Continue, Grant.
My bad, Grant.
Hey, no, that's good.
Good.
2.5. So,
Knowledge is key.
and then you might be making, like, interest rates are so low.
0.1%.
Yeah, like you might be making 0.1% on that money in that bank account, and sometimes they even put a limit on it. Like they might like be like 0.1% on the first $5,000. But let's say so if you think about it at that average rate, so then you're losing 2.4% per year,
Right.
and then if you
not of physical money,
but of the value
but
of that money. So
of purchasing power.
right,
Yeah.
so 3 years down the line, it's still going to be. It's actually technically, you look at the number, you'd be like, no, it grew, because it might be, I don't know, like $1,010 or something like that.
Right.
But it's gonna be
$1,000 in 2020 is not what $1,000 was in 2000.
no, like, because that inflation
By
is just gonna
means.
get you.
Right.
Your milk's gonna be 30% more, not 30% more. You know what I mean?
Right.
It might be like almost 10% more. Your iPhone might cost
Because
20%
money's
more.
worth
Yeah, money will be worth less. So
iPhones have doubled within the last 4 years.
5 more
yeah,
cameras on top
that's
of it.
facts. But yeah, it's pretty wild. We'll dive into things that you can do to counteract inflation, as well as just some more chatter between ZZ, Gage, and I in the second half. Give it a smooch, Gage. ZZ? Oh, we'll edit that one out. Welcome back to FaceTime. This is part 2. We're going to be chopping it up a bit more. And Zizi's going to be kicking us off
With un pregunta.
with a little question.
Hey, so to either Grant or to Gage,
Mm.
what is one con or one weakness you see in finances or financial choices that kids our age are making? So kids coming right out of high school, whether college or no college, and what's one encouragement or a strategy that they can overcome that financial misinvestment?
Do you want to say?
Maybe one person can give the con and one person give the solution.
Gage, you start.
Going to college.
Mm. Yeah.
Is there any bias in that answer?
Let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
Going to college for a degree that isn't going to make you what that degree is worth. I mean, like, because in my opinion, there's only
On monetary values, right?
yeah,
talking about
monetary.
straight
Because
money.
I'm a very, I don't want to say logical person,
Yeah.
but it's, like if something doesn't make logical sense to me,
Yeah.
like I'm not a very emotional person when it comes to money and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you're a robot.
I'm what?
Robot.
Exactly. Precisely.
Yeah.
Like my plumbing apprenticeship. I didn't go into plumbing because I absolutely love
Yeah.
plumbing. It made sense to me.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
the next
I
logical
get to make
step.
good money. School is cheap.
Yeah. Definitely.
It keeps me out of debt, and it allows other opportunities.
Yeah.
But
Like to you, the plumbing, I think like this isn't to say that you should do something that you will never enjoy.
No,
but I
not
think
at all.
for plumbing for Gage is to get like decent money without acquiring debt.
Yeah, I was
and also
pragmatic.
to like at the end of these few years of doing the plumbing, he's going to be certified for that, and then he can start his own business. So it sets up that opportunity,
Yeah.
like you mentioned.
right.
Like you have other ventures that you need to generate capital first, and plumbing seems like that first logical
like Grant
step.
said, like Grant's extremely passionate about real estate, woodworking.
Yeah,
The problem is that those things require a lot of money to start in.
definitely. Yeah,
So
especially
For
at our
me.
age, you need like real ways to start.
Yeah, so I'm
generating.
driving a chip truck.
you see what the man's doing out here? He's delivering chips. Stay humble.
Catch me in your
Stay
Walmart,
humble.
Mike
bro.
sells potato chip company.
So it's I think maybe going to college isn't the right answer.
I think the mindset too often is you have to go to college. But I think it is a struggle with like parents a lot of times, because a lot of parents really
Absolutely.
want you to go to college.
Yeah.
And as far as like where you're going to live during the year, some parents might not want you to stay at home if you're getting a job instead of going to college. Now, I mean, that's for like people that are on campus in an out of town college, but
Which I think you and I have been very blessed with understanding parents.
yeah,
Because
Absolutely.
my mom, she told me, she was like, whether you go to college or not, you have the 4 years after
That's
high
awesome.
school
right.
to stay and figure things out. Most parents would have been like, no, if you're not going to school, which even some parents who do want you to go to school still want you to move out when you turn 18.
Right.
And I didn't have parents who really pushed me to go to college either. My parents really pushed me to understand what I was doing, not to just go into things
Yeah.
willy-nilly, I suppose.
I see like the challenge, especially to whether or not you do or don't want to go to college. I think it was really cool how you mentioned that like you're a logical person, like everyone thinks a little differently. Some people might be more emotional without having any like logical mental framework. So I think it's a little bit balance of both, like in some way, like whether you're talking about finances or education or what you're pursuing after high school, at the end of the day, I think it's all hovering around the question, like, how are we trying to be successful at our age,
Right.
And I think if for one person success might be avoiding debt, then avoiding college is a really good answer to fulfill that definition of success, or at least for you. Everyone's definition of success is a little different. If someone wants to be like, I'm really glad you mentioned this. Like, if they're passionate about teaching, like teaching financially is like a very like poor, I think, like debt compared to income trade-off. Like you go to college, you acquire a lot of debt, and teaching salaries are probably one of the lowest salaries you can get from college. So
Yeah.
if you're just going for the money, just strictly alone, looking at how much debt you're acquiring from college, how long it takes to pay off that debt. Usually teachers have families,
Return.
Like I
on
talked to Mr.
investment.
Scholes, math teacher of mine. He said that the majority of male high school teachers, in order to be the number one income generator of the household, they have to work one or at least two part-time jobs aside from teaching, just because they can't make enough for
And
that.
just to put into perspective how little teachers make,
Shout out to teachers.
as a first year plumbing apprentice, I make only like $2,000 or $3,000 less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
the
think
first year.
I make what a first year teacher makes.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to see, because like if it's, like if your definitions are strictly around money and avoiding debt, like that's not a very wise decision to go into. But if your heart is for students, like if there's something beyond just that salary, then that education degree is worth it to some people, Like talking about the difference between rich and wealthy, like we have sad rich people, just
Exactly.
as
Absolutely.
sad poor people.
Yeah. That's one thing I'll touch on to answer your question, ZZ. I think as it pertains to college, like Gage said, like that can definitely be a very poor financial decision. But everyone's situation is just so unique. Like there's some people who have parents or grandparents or scholarships that will pay for the entirety of their college. And there's other people that just want to go to college no matter what. No one can change their mind. Or there's other people that have parents that are forcing them to go to college regardless of whether they don't know what they want to do. And that, I think that pressure is like really unhealthy, because
Yeah.
then I think some people are just so focused on that, like following what people's expectations are, that they can't even live for themselves. And I hope that can change, or I don't know. It's just difficult to address this like holistically, because everyone comes from a different place.
Yeah.
But I think another thing that we can touch on to answer Zizi's question is, I would say a couple things is, one is like money cannot buy happiness. And I think there's like kind of this wave. I think people just kind of like agree with that for a long time. But recently I've seen like a lot of people our age be like, forget that. Like money can buy happiness. Look, I just bought this plan. Now I'm smiling. Or look, I just bought this new iPhone and like it's the best thing ever. I think to me it's like, yeah, those things, like you can buy the things that you enjoy, but I think those are really distractions, like from your emotions.
Yeah. I mean, money certainly can't buy happiness.
No.
But it certainly can buy freedom
Yeah.
of time,
For sure.
freedom
And,
of
Yeah.
personal exploration and interest,
yeah.
and freedom can bring you happiness, certainly. So I mean, I think, to go back to Zizi's question of what's the worst financial decision people make after high school, it's probably just simply not teaching themselves giving themselves financial education.
Yeah.
Because schools aren't going to teach you. I mean, taxes.
Yeah, like I saw this one meme. It was like the caption was how schools, or like how high schools teach taxes, mortgages, and all those little adult things. And then the picture was like the quadratic equation. Like
Right.
we never learn how to deal with like real adult stuff that we're thrown into. Like especially if your parents aren't going to give you that place to stay.
Right. Yeah.
It's really a shame because, I mean, especially the taxes. Like you're gonna have to do them whether you want to or not. I think you have to be very picky about who you choose to surround yourself with,
And how much you do.
right?
Like there's always a balance, you know.
Right, there's definitely is. It's you have to surround yourself with the people who are willing to help create the future that you want.
Yeah.
I suppose, if that makes any sense. I mean, there's a difference between
Not even just financially. It's like even
just who you want to. There's a difference
Yeah.
between hanging out and chilling
Yeah.
and growing with somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure everybody, if you're listening, you guys, everybody understands that. There's a difference between when you hang out with people during your free time and when you free time to hang out with people. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Um,
I like that.
ooh.
so it's I don't know. I feel like I've gone way off topic here.
No,
No, keep on
it's valuable.
Time is money, baby.
But what were we talking about? Yes,
Investing
time is money.
time with
Value
friends.
your time, people.
For sure.
I feel like we never hit on this during the first one or
Yeah.
during our first session.
Mm.
Was the difference between rich and wealthy.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we started to, at least. But like, I think I said that a person making $60K a year can be more wealthy than a person making $100K a year.
Right.
Yeah.
Based on their
If
decisions.
that person making $100K a year has monthly expenses of $10,000,
Yeah.
they're in debt, etc., have no assets.
Yeah.
Whereas that person making $60K a year can have multiple rental properties.
Mm-hmm.
They can have a stock portfolio in the hundreds of thousands. They can have very little debt. Wealth is measured in time. If you were to quit your job today, how long can you continue to go without having to work for somebody else?
Yeah.
Whereas rich is kind of like a competition.
Yeah.
Um,
Like how many zeros
right.
are in your bank account?
How many zeros are on your bank account? How nice.
How many zeros are in your salary
Yeah,
sometimes?
your salary.
Some people are like living paycheck to paycheck,
Right.
even though they're making six figures.
Mhm. I don't want to go into too much of my financial situation,
Yeah.
No.
but I mean, I have a total of like $6,000 to my name,
Yeah.
and I can go 2 years without having to work.
That's a-
Wow.
But I also live with my mom.
yeah.
Yeah.
I drive an old beat up car.
Yes, sir.
Just I don't splurge too much.
For sure.
I have a budget that I follow.
Yeah. And everyone,
I'm quite the boring man. I'm not a very cool cat.
everyone I
Hey,
guess
you're wearing flip flops in the
Very
middle of winter.
I'm wearing
that's
flip-flops
pretty
in
cool.
December.
You're going
You're
off
pretty
me.
swagging.
G.
absolutely balling. Nah, that's some good knowledge for you. And it doesn't mean I think you can take a page out of Gage's book, but you don't need to be the Gage book.
I mean, I'm not.
Yeah.
I know very little about money, really. I mean, I've been teaching myself for a year and a half now.
Yeah.
Ever since the start of my senior year, and it's December now. And it's just a scratch. Every day I'm learning something new,
Yeah.
For sure.
coming across stuff that I don't know. Google was a wonderful thing. Google
Absolutely.
has,
Yeah.
in my opinion, Google has really eliminated the need for college. Besides getting your qualifications, which are important, obviously. You don't want to be a neurosurgeon without a qualification.
Yeah.
But when it comes to
I'm gonna just watch a YouTube video on how
Right.
to operate on this brain.
But I mean, you can go online and learn a lot of the stuff people are learning with bachelor degrees just from Google.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to hate on people going to college by any means. College people are important
People
to
are
our
important.
economy, to businesses, etc. But don't learn the value. Learn the value teaching yourself, self-education. Learn to value your money. Money is important. Money isn't the root of all evil,
Facts.
etc., etc.
Yeah, I think one thing that's key is like if you can understand money well enough, and you have a job, or like I don't know. I don't want to get like too into this, but I just want to like make a comment on how an understanding of money and how you spend it and how much you make and how you can make more by like pursuing other things or investing can make you like financially free, or like what was it called, financial security, I guess.
Yeah.
Pretty much regardless of how much you make if you're working like full time.
There's a metaphor that I love, and it's if a table had one leg, it would fall over. It wouldn't be able to stand.
Yeah.
That's how your financial life needs to be. You can't build a stable financial life with only one source of income.
Yeah.
Which for most people is their salaries,
Yeah.
their jobs. You have to have assets, either that be real estate, side businesses, stocks. I mean, I'm not here to tell you what to invest in. I'm not a financial advisor.
For
I
sure.
wouldn't push you to take financial advice from me. I don't think that'd be a very wise investment on your part.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't.
But it's
I'm not seasoned either.
no.
No.
But I think your mom upstairs could cook us both.
Oh,
Paprika and
my mom could take us to work, bro.
cumin.
But it's just the little things that once you do start teaching yourself, it just kind of it's common sense, really.
Bien. Yo, check it out. That's in French. So, anyways, personal finance question for y'all. It's a little personal and it's gonna be financial.
Yeah.
What's one mistake or financial decision, financial mistake that you've made within the past 4 years of high school? And then what did you learn from that? What was your biggest takeaway?
Financial
We'll each go around. We'll go around.
mistake.
Do you want to go first?
Let me think.
We'll go Grant, me, Gage. Gage will have the best.
Just quickly, I'll mention something that comes to mind. I purchased a camera, a pretty expensive camera. I dropped $1,200 on the camera and $800 on the lens, and I have not made that back through the ventures that I do with cameras. However, so I think some things, like in some people's situations, can be like Gage is literally laughing because he's like, "That's so much money to drop on a camera." But the thing is, like for me, like I just really wanted to have this camera, and like I like making this stuff. So it's like I think I started to balance that out with like trying to make some money with the camera, and then like pursuing the woodworking that I do for money, just to like balance it out. So it's like in life, it's not always like, oh, you should have bought the real cheap camera or just done all your camera stuff with your phone. Like, yeah, that would have been the better financial thing to do.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to choose a bad financial decision just to balance it out with other ones. Or like it's
Gotta splurge a little bit.
you got to splurge in the areas
Well,
that you want to.
it's not like we do everything purely for financial decisions, dude.
No, right.
Like if you look at the camera quality, like you know what I mean? Like
Like,
when you're
yeah,
if you're
like-
paying that kind of money for a camera, like you're expecting a different kind of return.
For sure. And for me, it was just something I enjoyed. But also, even though it was like a splurge, the retail price for that camera was $2,500.
Oh,
Like a few years prior, so it was used. And then the
Okay.
lens was like
Okay, a little steal in
$950.
here,
So
deal in there.
I was still trying to be as financially practical I could, even though I knew and had like confronted the fact that I was spending more than 20% of all the money that I'd ever saved up on a like single thing.
Very nice.
But yeah, so that's kind of a bad financial decision I made, but I don't regret it, I guess.
That's-
I'll try to think of one that I regret if that's more valuable. But Gage, do you have something that pops in your mind? Pumps in your mind?
Oh.
New word choice.
Of one I regret or just my stupidest decision?
Let's get both.
Both. I think my stupidest decision I ever made was so I'm going to have to get a little bit tricky here real quick for those of you who don't fully understand the stock market. So there's stocks and there's stock options.
Stock options.
When you trade a stock, you're just buying, or there's shares and there's options. When you buy a share, you're just buying one share of the company at the listed price.
Right.
When you buy an option, you're buying 100 shares of the company with like 10 times the volatility. And volatility means how much it goes up.
How
and down.
sensitive it is.
Yeah.
So essentially, every penny that the stock price went up, I was making $1.
Yep.
And-
Because you have 100.
Right. And vice versa.
Yeah.
Every penny that the stock price goes down, I was losing $1.
Yeah.
Well, this is back when I didn't really know much about anything about the stock market.
Yeah.
I just knew that there's this thing called options, and people were making a lot of money doing it.
Some people.
Yeah, some
people like to brag when they do make a lot of money on it.
Right. Which I was kind of that guy.
Yeah.
I had about $1,200 saved up to this point. And I was doing it for a couple of weeks. I made a couple $100.
Which feels really
1,200
good.
from stocks.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I decided that I was going to YOLO my entire life savings up to this point.
She was going to send his entire portfolio
Yes,
into a
on this
trade.
one trade.
Yeah.
Needless to say, I lost everything. I did not win the bet. But that's kind of the reason I asked something I regret or something it was stupid. Because I don't regret it. I learned a lot from that.
Right.
I learned that I need a lot more money if I'm going to trade stuff like that. But also that I need to learn a lot more before I start getting into stuff like that.
For sure.
So yeah, I mean, something I regret. I can't really think of anything.
No regrets, baby.
I like I said, I've been pretty frugal with my money throughout
Word choice.
high school.
Frugal. Nice.
I bought food. I didn't really buy that many clothes.
Except when you absolutely sent it into the options market.
Absolutely just dogged it.
Just
Complete.
yeah.
All right, Zizi.
Now, Zizi, yeah, I want to hear from you.
Yeah, so financial mistake. Unlike Grant and Gage, I actually have not had any experience in investing, whether it's in stocks or opening up different accounts. My head's just not. I haven't been really exposed to that world of money. But financially, I guess the most expensive thing I broke. Oh, well, there's a couple actually. Now that I think about it, the one that came to mind was a window in my parents' bedroom. I tried killing a fly with a curtain rod, and I'm like hyping myself in my head, like justifying why I should do this. Like, oh, flies, they spread malaria, which is actually mosquitoes, but they spread diseases and stuff, and like they're like killing lives. So like, this was probably like 6th or 7th grade, and I'm like hyping I'm like, I'm a hero if I kill this fly. So I just full sent it. I think I bashed the window twice. It never like fully shattered, but it cracked. And when Mom came home, she was like, well, yeah, as moms do per usual. If we have any people who got the wooden spoon or a flip flop, that's a great form of education right there. But financially, we saved, and instead of replacing the window, my mom just put like these stained glass stickers on the cracks, and then she did the same thing on the other window to make it look symmetrical. So that's what I thought was the most expensive thing I broke. But now that I think about it, I think I broke Grant's arm too. I'm not sure how expensive the medical bills were for that. So
I couldn't tell you, but my mom liked to inform me that we'd already met our deductible for our health savings account that year. So we only had to pay like 10% of the cost. So
let's go. #insurance. So yeah.
Clutched it.
So those are the two financial mishaps I've had in my life. Neither of which I've had to pay the consequences for, but
nice. Yeah. One thing that did pop into my brain as far as like regrets is when I did like dabble in stocks when I was younger. I like was super interested in it for like a year, like 12 to 13, I think. And I was like, it's because I had access to being able to actually trade because my parents had an account and you can make like sub accounts under the same thing normally, and they like made one. They were like, all right, you can chuck some money in there if you want. So I did, and then I traded. I thought it was really interesting. I don't think I like sold. I just kind of held for like a long time. But then I like lost interest in it because it's for me it was kind of like I was so young that everything was like if it wasn't shiny anymore, wasn't new, it wasn't like a new thing I was diving into, I didn't care about it anymore. And I knew like I'd made a little money, so I was like, word. I didn't really think about it. And then I went to check it like sophomore year. Like I checked them sometimes, but I like went to actually like see if I could put more money in there or like figure out how my little portfolio was doing. And I think I had like 2 stocks that were like doing okay. Like they had made me some money. But then the third one that I bought like lost like 90%. So my portfolio overall was like down like probably 15% or 20%. And it was just because I never looked at it, I never checked it. And I could have like actually made money. So that's my biggest regret. That's why I would recommend the average person does not put their money into individual companies, because even if they're a good company, you never know what's going to happen. And if you're not going to check it, then you don't know when to sell. Mm-hmm. So I would just say that's kind of where my recommendation for putting your money into Robinhood and just getting a ETF or an exchange traded fund, like Gage explained. Like the S&P 500, you can search it up. The ticker is SPY. To get like SPY, and it's like a good one just to chuck your money at, and then forget about it. Because you probably will forget about it if you're not thinking about it much.
Oh, definitely.
Word.
Definitely.
Do you have any more? Ask us some more questions.
Yeah, Zizi. I like that question a lot.
I think a little connection that we all may have had, this might be an overstep, is that we all, in a way, learned from our failure or shortcoming.
Yeah.
So in one way, this might be a tricky way to word it. Is risk worth it when it's compared to the education you get from failing?
Yes,
so basically, in one way, is failing
in.
like how important you think being educated from failure is? Like how important is
I was not listening to what you said.
It's okay. Most people don't listen to me.
Even my therapist.
even all
my
you.
therapist doesn't listen to me.
Hey, shout out to everyone listening right now. Let's get it. Okay. How big of a component in life is education from failure or learning from your mistakes? Like how important do you think that is?
I think that's the most important way of learning. I mean, depending on what you're
there's some boundaries
doing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's some things you just don't want to fail at.
Some things you shouldn't risk.
Or some things
like
you just
drunk driving
or
drugs.
Yeah.
Certain types of drugs.
Yeah.
Just
the extra hot sauce packet on Taco
common
Tuesday.
sense just has to take the wheel on.
Yeah.
But I mean, investing. I don't want to say you should be trying to fail at it, but you're not going to learn unless you do it.
Yeah, it's worth that risk.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know, like, for me, my apprenticeship for plumbing, it's full time and I still go to school. Mm-hmm. But I definitely spend more time actually doing plumbing than I do in a classroom, which is beneficial because I've had my fair share of mess ups. I've broken stuff and had to go back to people's houses and fix floors that I've scratched from making stupid decisions and failures.
Yeah.
But I'm learning a lot more actually doing stuff, failing at it, and then having to reteach myself how to do it than I would be just in a classroom reading a book.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think, and failure also spurs you to learn or be creative in learning to do things in different ways.
Yeah. Problem solving
like
in general.
Me YOLOing my entire $1,500 that I had to my name at the time on a single trade.
Respect
And losing all of it, it made me kind of realize, maybe I should learn a different way to invest
in some
my
ways,
money.
would you say instead of making you step back like in fear of messing up again, in some ways like it like motivated you to learn even more?
Motivated me to be smarter.
Yeah. To learn more, yeah.
But yeah, learn more. Be smarter.
Get smart.
Talk to people that actually know more about me. I think that's the biggest thing about failure is that it makes you humble yourself and
that's good.
Understand that there's more experienced and better people out there than you in this field.
I was so stuck up as a second grader. I tried convincing my mom that 2 times 2 was 8. And I had like an entire method. Just like, I just couldn't accept that I was wrong in any way.
Exactly.
That's wild.
Some people are like that still as adults. They just,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? They won't take the opportunities to learn. Even if it's from people younger than them. Sometimes it's the younger ones that are more knowledge about a certain skill or craft.
For sure.
What about you, Grant? What do you think?
One thing that popped into my brain, because we're talking about like the importance of failure in terms of learning. And I think perhaps like the most important baseline thing about failure is your reaction to it.
Baseline.
Because all the learning that you can derive from it, it's so valuable. Like Gage was walking you through, like it can just develop you not only as a person, it can humble you, it can open doors for you. I'm sorry. I don't know what I was dropped off a little bit right there. I don't know what I was thinking. But my point is, if Gage didn't respond to his failure with losing all his money in trading options, with wanting to learn more, like it was an eagerness, it wasn't defeat. It was, I'm in a boxing match. I just got knocked out, but I've got a match in 9 months. And I'm going to train for it. I'm going to learn.
I'm going to work my off for it.
My tushy off. That's
my
right.
Tushy.
You know, things just take time. You can't.
For sure.
You can't make a baby in a month by getting 9 women pregnant.
That's right.
You gotta let that fetus
You're
marinate.
You're just end up like Future.
You
have
marinate.
6 baby mamas.
Hey,
Quote
kids are
Warren
investments. Kids are investments.
That's awesome. But yeah, no, like if you respond to the failure in like a positive manner and an attitude that you can get something out of it, then you will. And that's where all of its value comes from.
Yeah.
And that's
awesome.
your attitude. That's the biggest thing that's going to come out of failure is your attitude.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
your personal.
Like you either let
that's
it tear you down.
That's the other thing school doesn't teach you it doesn't teach you how to handle failure.
Yeah, it's such a failure is a scary thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So
for sure. And
you can't be afraid to fail. You can't be afraid of being wrong.
Absolutely.
You have to be afraid of being scared of failing. I think that's if you're gonna have a fear, that's one of the worst fears you can have is being afraid of failing.
Because it gridlocks you.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that.
And going back to our
all
whole
kinds of
inflation talk earlier.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't invest because they're scared to invest.
Yeah.
Well, you're losing money in a savings account.
Yeah.
You're already losing.
Right.
Because of your failure.
It's like a
Or because
perspective
of your
change.
fear.
Yeah.
Your
Absolutely.
fear of failure.
Yeah. I think that was an absolute bombshell.
Thank you.
Now, Zizi, do you have another question for us?
Yeah, I have our concluding question. You boys
okay.
ready for this?
I like
That'd
it.
be a good one.
What is one send-off do you have to our audience about any topic we've covered over today?
One thing I would want to say, just to kind of reiterate and emphasize some things that we touched on, is the value of trade school in general. Like Gage is walking us through, something that he told me that I think is like really fascinating about plumbing specifically is for every one person going into plumbing, there are 3 people leaving plumbing. And obviously, the demand for plumbing is going up. I mean, as population goes up, you need more plumbers.
More poop. More poop, more pipes.
But
Right. Which, I mean,
it's so
like
valuable.
a lot of people ask me, oh, do you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Most of the time, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not enjoyable every day, but it's fulfilling. There's never a day I go home thinking that, oh, I didn't contribute
Yeah.
something meaningful. I didn't make someone's life easier today. Every day I get to go home knowing that I made someone's life a little bit easier today. And it's not very glorious at all. I mean,
No.
There's nothing special about plumbing, but it's extremely fulfilling.
Don't say that, Gage. You're a
It's
plumber.
honest.
There we go.
It's hard work.
Gage, what's your send-off, son?
I think you just have to take initiative of your personal education. Um, if something interests you, you have to be willing to go out of your way to teach yourself it. And you just keep that desire to keep wanting to learn throughout your life. I think that's very important. That's the only way you're going to continue to keep growing on a personal level with your relationships, financially, intellectually, even physically. You have to be willing to keep wanting to learn. So, yeah, that's my biggest send-off.
I like it.
That's
It's easy. Do you have a
That's heavy
send-off?
stuff. Dang, that
was profound.
Gage is
come
my
on, Zizi.
send-off. That's
Gage.
put that in a book, son. My send-off is to read more. Yeah. Just hearing Gage and Grant talk about stuff. It seems like sometimes when something's compulsory or like an education, typical education where we're forced to do things, we don't want to do them. But I think both Gage and Grant, their unique perspectives and not going straight into college when a lot of their friends have, is that their like a pursuit of knowledge isn't being forced anymore. It's something that they're doing out of their own free time. They're putting the work behind the hours. They're both working full-time jobs, so it's not even during their jobs where they're learning about investments or stocks. So I'd encourage everybody listening, whether you're in high school, you ain't in high school, ain't in college, or furthermore, kind of like what Gage said, take initiative in your education, own your education. It's not just what people have been feeding you in the public school system, even though we love our teachers, appreciate them, but just have that commitment and motivation to learn what you care about, to better your craft or trade or whatever you're putting your resources into.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, ZZ.
And once again, Grant and I, we are not experts.
Not
We
at
do
all.
not know everything. We do
Yeah,
not know.
Someone that is a seasoned investor listening to this podcast would probably laugh at
Yes, Dave Ramsey is
comments.
currently writing a show about how terrible we are at talking about money.
He's
our... Yeah,
reviewing us.
he's actually like live reacting on his podcast
Yes.
right now and laughing.
But I mean, it's just
been a
take
good time.
initiative
Yeah.
of your own
For
life.
so,
Put on the pants.
Financial security.
Put on the pants.
and
Come
the goal is progression and not perfection.
Hey, preach it, son. Say
Yeah.
it again. One more time for the audience.
The goal is progression and not perfection. I think that can
Word.
literally apply to anything as humans because we're not perfect,
Yeah.
but we can all progress.
Put on a card.
Put on the pants, man. What are you doing? Take initiative.
Since we're talking about return on investments, we really appreciate you investing your time into listening
Gage
to the
Ritter.
FaceTime podcast. Not to just thank the listeners, though. I think we should really compliment the lovely people we've had on today. Thank you so much, Gage, for sharing your story,
Thank
Mr.
you for
Ritter.
having me.
your
been a
knowledge, your
pleasure.
failure.
Oh, yes.
Your humility. That
Yeah.
was a big one.
Yeah, being willing to talk about
Hey, yo.
losing 1,500 on a quick trade.
We only getting up from here. We only getting up.
That's valuable. Thank you. ZZ, thanks for bringing your questions
Thank you.
and your
I'm a
perspective
curious
as
child.
someone who hasn't dabbled as much in stocks.
Yeah.
And also, shout out to all the people who know far more than us about finances. We appreciate you. Hopefully you got a laugh out of this and kick out of this because we don't know everything about the market. We're just kind of like a year into learning stuff, Gage and I. But hopefully this encourages you to get some knowledge instead of Lambos because we all know what's more important.
Although if you're buying Lambos,
Yeah,
I don't
if-
think you're going to be listening to us.
Yeah, probably not.
So
We respect you, though. I mean,
But you know what's more important?
But you know what's more
Lambos in my garage? Knowledge. Hey guys. See you next time
on FaceTime.